that this is a true story. Any evidence that I can find in my searching leads me to believe that this is not a true story, but it is what is known as an urban legend. In other words, it's a story that starts and kind of passes from one person to another, and then people begin to believe that it is true. But the type of art that is referred to here, it is what is known as performance art. And this particular story is one that is circulated in various forms. And one version suggested that the gun actually went off, but it went off in the middle of the night and that no one was hurt. However, let's suppose for just a moment this morning that such a piece of performance art actually exists. I hope that no one in this sanctuary this morning would be foolish enough to sit in that chair looking down the barrel of that gun. And yet, we all know people, family, friends, neighbors, who spend a whole lifetime looking down the barrel of sin, hoping that the gun will not go off anytime soon. Today, we take a look at chapter 16 of the story. And this is a chapter of contrast between what it takes to guarantee failure in your life and what it takes to guarantee success. And what it takes to determine the difference between failure and success comes down to just one word. It's the word decisions. Remember that the kingdom of Israel had been divided into a northern kingdom and into a southern kingdom. Israel in the north and Judah in the south. Israel with 10 tribes, Judah with 2 tribes. And in 2 Kings 17, we find that the northern kingdom of Israel finally came to an end after over 200 years making bad decisions. For 2 centuries, they had one evil king after another, and those evil kings made one bad decision after another, and they probably figured that nothing would ever happen to them. God would never do anything. And yet, after 200 years of warning, finally, the shotgun went off. When God acted, he did so decisively. He chose another nation, a nation known as Assyria, which is roughly equivalent to modern day Syria. And he chose it to invade Israel. And it took 3 years, but finally Israel, the northern part of the country, was defeated. The capital Samaria was captured, and all of the inhabitants were deported back to Assyria. And just like that, just in the snap of a finger, the northern kingdom of Israel ceased to exist. It was gone. It was gone forever, not just for a period of time and, popped up again. No, it was gone forever. History refers to the people of the northern kingdom as the lost tribes of Israel because they no longer existed as tribes after that, let alone as a nation. It appears that the Assyrians split them up, settled them in different towns and cities and villages and areas that they controlled. And eventually, the people in the northern kingdom, they intermarried with the people that, they were placed in the midst of, and eventually they lost their cultural identity. And how sad is that when you think about it? These descendants of Abraham, who once worshiped the one true God, who enjoyed his presence, who had their own land, they were now permanently removed from his presence and from the land that they had been given. We might describe it this way. They were escorted out of the garden, and it all happened because they made some very bad decisions. Bad, ungodly decisions always guarantee ultimate failure. The scripture puts it this way. It says in verse 12, it says, this happened because they had not obeyed the Lord their God, but had violated his covenant, all that Moses, the servant of the Lord, had commanded. They neither listened to the commands nor carried them out. They rejected his decrees and the covenant he had made with their ancestors and the statutes that he had warned them to keep. They followed worthless idols and themselves became worthless. And by doing this, they guaranteed failure. If we give ourselves to worshiping worthless idols, then we ourselves are going to end up being worthless. Now, I want you to contrast what happened to the northern kingdom and what happened to little Judah to its south. Judah was spared being taken over by the king of Assyria and by the Assyrians. Why? Again, because of decisions that they made. Most of the kings of Judah were righteous, or at least they were lukewarm towards God. There were some bad kings, don't get me wrong. There were some evil kings, but many of them, at the worst, they were lukewarm towards God. At the best, they were sold out to God, like the young man that we are going to look at today. While the Assyrians were dragging off Jews from the northern kingdom, a young man by the name of Hezekiah, who was 25 years of age, became king of Judah. And you might remember that out of the 38 kings who ruled Israel, that is the land of Israel to the north and Judah to the south, during the over 200-year period that it existed, only 5 of those were truly godly kings, godly men. And Hezekiah happened to be one of the 5 that truly honored God. And this is what we learn about how Hezekiah honored God from 2 Kings chapter 18. It says, he did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, just as his father had done. He removed the high places. He smashed the sacred stones and cut down the Asherah poles. In other words, Hezekiah came in and he did a house cleaning job, and he turned the focus and the worship of the people of Judah back to the one true God, to Yahweh. That was a courageous course to take. That was a courageous way to go, because you see, it's all the more amazing. His father, Ahaz, was numbered amongst the wicked kings of Judah. And this is how 2 Kings chapter 16 describes Ahaz. It says, he followed the ways of the kings of Israel and even sacrificed his son in the fire, engaging in the detestable practices of the nations that the Lord had driven out before the Israelites. He offered sacrifices and burned incense at the high places, on the hilltops, and every spreading tree. So you can see, Ahaz was an evil king. He was an ungodly man in every way. And yet, Hezekiah, even though his father was evil, Hezekiah chose the way of righteousness. And under his reign, Judah prospered. And here was Hezekiah's true strength. Here was his true strength. Hezekiah trusted in the Lord, the God of Israel. There was no one like him among all the kings of Judah, either before him or after him. He held fast to the Lord, and he did not stop following